Absolutely. So herbal smoking blends are basically mixtures of different dried herbs, flowers, and plant materials that people smoke instead of tobacco or cannabis. People get interested for a few reasons. Sometimes they see some as a natural option, or they're looking for a way to relax without nicotine. It's definitely something that deserves a closer look, though.
So many people assume herbal smoking is much safer than tobacco. Is that actually true?
That's a really common assumption, but it's not necessarily true. Just because something is natural doesn't mean it's risk-free. When you burn plant material, you still produce tar, carcinogens, and other harmful byproducts, so it's definitely not without risk.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, exactly. So even if there's no nicotine, your lungs are still dealing with.
If these blends don't contain nicotine, are they still risky to smoke?
Exactly. So even though some herbs like chamomile or mint might seem harmless, inhaling any kind of smoke can irritate your airways, cause inflammation, and over time it could lead to lung problems.
Okay, what happens to your lungs when you smoke any kind
Yeah,
of
for sure. I think
plant
that's
material?
of course. Yeah, so it's really crucial to be aware.
Okay, let's start this again. What happens to your lungs when you smoke any kind of plant material?
Yeah, so when you smoke plant material, even if it's just herbs, your lungs still have to deal with the heat and the chemicals produced. You get tar buildup, inflammation, and it can even affect your lung function over time.
Okay, next question. Why do people in their 20s decide to try smoking herbal blends? Is it mostly curiosity, stress, social influence, or something else?
Yeah, it's usually a mix of factors. A lot of people in their 20s are just curious. They're exploring new things, maybe looking for a way to unwind. Social influence plays a big role. Friends or trends can push them toward trying it. And sometimes stress or just a need to relax is a big factor too.
Okay, are there any proven health benefits to smoking herbs, or is it mostly a myth?
Yeah, that's a big question. There are a lot of claims out there, but honestly, there's not much solid scientific evidence for health benefits. Most of the supposed benefits, like relaxation or mild sedation, are pretty anecdotal, and the risks tend to outweigh those potential perks.
Um, some herbal blends contain like chamomile, lavender, mullein, or mint. Does the specific herb make smoking
Exactly.
significantly
Yes,
safer?
so a lot of these blends use those kinds of herbs, and they're chosen because they have calming or soothing qualities. But even then, when you smoke them, you're still exposing yourself to the risks we talked about. So the effect is more about perception than a real health benefit.
So, could smoking herbal blends become a habit or a habit even without nicotine?
Yeah, it definitely can. I mean, even without nicotine, the ritual itself, like the hand to mouth action, the routine, can become a habit. So people might find themselves reaching for it more often just out of familiarity or boredom, even if there's no chemical addiction.
So, are there any mental health concerns, especially for people dealing with stress or anxiety?
Yeah, that's a really important point. For some people, especially those already dealing with stress or anxiety, the act of smoking can be a temporary coping mechanism, but often it can actually worsen anxiety in the long term, especially if the habit creates more worry or guilt. So it's really a double-edged sword.
So, if someone simply wants to relax, what alternatives would you recommend instead of smoking herbs?
Yeah, I'd really recommend other relaxation techniques. Things like deep breathing, meditation, going for a walk, or even some gentle exercise can really help with stress. And if things feel overwhelming, talking to a counselor or therapist can be a game changer.
So, what people should know about products sold online that are advertised as
Yeah,
natural or chemical free?
exactly. So people really need to be cautious because a lot of these products are sold online with very little regulation. They might have unknown additives, contaminants, or even synthetic chemicals, so it's really hard to know what you're getting.
If someone has never smoked anything before, would you recommend
Yeah,
starting with
exactly. So if
herbal
someone's thinking about
blends?
trying herbal blends, they really need to do their homework. Check the ingredients, be skeptical of big claims, and just be aware that natural doesn't always mean safe.
Okay, okay. What is the biggest misconception people have about herbal smoking?
I think the biggest misconception is that just because something is labeled as herbal or natural, people assume it's totally safe. But in reality, the risks of inhaling any kind of smoke are still there, and it's not a harmless alternative.
Okay, let's carry on. If a friend asks you whether they should start smoking herbal blends in their 20s, what would your advice be?
Yeah, I mean, I'd tell them to be really cautious. I'd emphasize that even if it seems harmless, there are still health risks, and I'd suggest exploring other ways to manage stress, like talking to a professional or using healthier coping strategies.
Okay, let's sum this podcast up. Before we
Sounds
finish,
good.
what's the one
If there's
message you'd like listeners to remember about herbal smoking?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main message I'd want people to take away is just to stay informed. Natural doesn't always mean safe, and it's really important to be mindful of what you're putting in your body, especially when it comes to smoking anything.
Okay, thanks for the time. I appreciate from hearing you more often in the near future. So, goodbye.
Of course. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'd be happy to join again anytime. Take care and talk to you soon.